This Empirical's investigation is by Claus Struve Fredriksen and Morten Ebb Juel Nielsen. It is to determine whether the current practice within CSR reporting provides relevant information that enables stakeholders to evaluate the CSR commitment of the companies. They conducted an empirical investigation examining the CSR reports of some of the world's largest companies. They argue that CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to evaluate the CSR commitment of the companies. The main problem is that companies do not present or defend sufficiently clear baselines. So, it means that stakeholders are mostly kept in the dark when it comes to the level of a company's social and environmental obligations. And the variety of different values, marginal groups in the workforce, and reducing carbon dioxide emissions make CSR very hard to evaluate. The lack of CSR currency means that we need guidelines on how to compare different values. Introduction. In a 1990 survey, none of the 250 largest companies in America are found to publish social and environmental reports on an annual basis according to Hess 2001. In recent years, CSR reporting has moved from a reserve of the idealistic few to the mainstream, and the vast majority of large companies now publish annual reports on their CSR commitment. The question is, will these reports provide relevant information enabling stakeholders to evaluate the company's CSR commitment? According to the investigation of Claus Struve Fredriksen and Morten Ebb Juel Nielsen, they indicate that CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to evaluate CSR performance, at least not seen from an ethical perspective. According to their analysis, the main problem with the current practice of CSR reporting is the company do not present or refer to any clear and justified social and environmental baseline. The companies do not present or refer to any method for comparing and evaluating the many different social and environmental variables referred to in their CSR reports. For example, how are we to compare projects reducing the use of scarce resources with the initiatives promoting cultural diversity in the workplace? When we say scarce resources, it is the unavailability of supplies required to maintain life or a certain quality of life. And there are many case stories meant to demonstrate how companies engaged in CSR rarely provide relevant information regarding overall picture, and much relevant data were generally left out of the CSR reports. They find that one cardinal and three different ordinal approaches are relevant in the relation to their investigation, and on that basis, they arrive at the following four hypotheses. On their first hypothesis, the current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to evaluate the CSR performance of the companies. Their second hypothesis is that the current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to evaluate whether a company's CSR is better or worse compared to last year. On their third hypothesis, the current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to compare the CSR performance of the companies across different sectors. On their fourth and last hypothesis, the current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to compare the CSR performance of companies within the same sector. The companies in this study were chosen primarily because they represent some of the world's largest and most influential companies. So, basing on the company's ranking for sales, profit, assets, and market value, Claus Stroh Fredriksen and Morten Ebb Juel Nielsen randomly picked the following industry sectors and the three largest companies within these sectors. Apple. As of September 2022, Apple has a market cap of $2.417 trillion and this makes Apple the world's most valuable company. Hewlett-Packard, an American manufacturer of software and computer services, also known as HP. Dell is an American technology company that develops, sells, repairs and supports computer and related products and services. Nestle is a Swiss multinational food and drink processing, which is the world's largest food and beverage company. Unilever is one of the largest fast-moving consumer goods or FMCG companies in the world. It is a company offering beauty and personal care products, food and refreshments, and home care products. Kraft Foods is a multinational confectionery, food and beverage conglomerate, and its popular products are Kraft cheese, Milka, and the most known Toblerone chocolates. ExxonMobil is a corporation committed to being the world's premium petroleum and chemical manufacturing company. Royal Dutch Shell or Shell is a British multinational oil and gas company with expertise in the exploration, production, refining, and marketing of oil and natural gas, and it is the manufacturing and marketing of chemicals. PetroChina is a Chinese oil and gas company, and it is listed on arm of the state China National Petroleum Corporation, contributing approximately 50% and 60% of China's domestic oil and gas production volume. Upon the basis of Fredriksen and Morten, there are several things that are important to note in their study. First, it is the use of CSR reports, and they were published in 2013 for the 2012 fiscal year. Secondly, even though many of the reports are not titled as CSR reports, they all concern a variety of tradition of CSR-related issues. On their overview of the findings, they used their evaluation framework to quote the claim, and this consists of the following four categories. Number 1. Upholding absolute constraints against certain harmful actions. Number 2. Minimizing negative impacts. Number 3. Contributing positivity to society. Number 4. Commitment and partnerships. Upon presenting an overview, on the first category, which is upholding absolute constraints against certain harmful actions, there are three things that are worth noticing. First, all of the companies seem to support absolute constraints against certain harmful actions, and most of the companies are very clear in this regard and explicitly mention a variety of actions they regard as totally prohibited. Second, most actions that the company believes to be absolutely and morally unacceptable are human rights violation. The absolute constraints condemned by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the principles presented in the UN Global Compact. And all the companies except Kraft Foods explicitly refer to the importance of respecting human rights. Third, this category does not take up much space in the company's CSR reports. On minimizing negative impacts, there are two things worth noticing. The companies presented a lot of data about the prudent use of scarce resources or steps taken to reduce pollution, their policies, an idea on how to minimize their own negative impact. Second, the company's CSR reports focuses mainly on four areas. Number 1. Workers' health and safety. Companies are taking steps to ensure a safe work environment at the company's facilities and across the supply chain. Number 2. The use of scarce life-essential resources such as reducing the use of fresh water. saving and/or production of raw materials, such as buying raw materials from certified producers in non-conflict areas. Number 4. Pollution, such as reducing their carbon footprints and the production of hazardous waste. And the third higher order category, contributing positivity to society. In their study, findings suggest that the companies focus on a wide variety of different areas. These 6 areas illustrate the nature of the company's CSR reports. A. Job creation. It focuses on hiring local people. B. Tax payments. C. Engaging in or donating money or products to social projects. It is often somehow related to the company's core business. D. Promoting diversity. E. Securing access to their products. Most of the company involved in their study emphasize that human being should have access to their or similar kind of products in order to be able to live in a decent life. F. Sector specific. Let us take note that not all companies report on all of the areas. Tax payment category is disregarded by Apple, Dell, Kraft Foods, Nestle, and Unilever. On the fourth higher category, commitment and partnerships, there are 3 issues that are noteworthy. First, the companies refer to company guidelines in accordance in which employees or often suppliers are expected to act. Second, the company support a variety of international CSR-related standards. Third, the companies mention many different partners when it comes to working with partners and business partners. As they evaluate the hypothesis number 1, upon their assessment, they conclude that hypothesis number 1 is plausible since the current practice within CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to evaluate a company's CSR reports seen from an ethical perspective. So several things are missing in this regard. First, the companies do not present and defend any clear baselines on minimizing their negative impact. Second, when it comes to making a positive contribution to society, many companies simply present more or less irrelevant case stories, and those who do present some relevant data fail to provide a comprehensive overview of how these resources are spent and what the relevant baselines.
In hypothesis 2, we conclude that they evaluate whether the company CSR performance better or worse than last year. If we compare this year's data with the last year's data, in hypothesis 3, we conclude that the current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to compare the CSR performance of the companies from different sectors. 2 things seems especially problematic. First, the CSR reports of the companies from different sectors focus on different issues. The second problem is that even if the companies from different sectors agree to focus more on the same issues. In hypothesis 4, we conclude that current practice of CSR reporting does not enable stakeholders to compare the CSR performance from the companies from the same sectors. First, even though the same sectors companies focus more on the same issues than cross-sectors companies. Second, even though same sectors companies are more likely than cross-sectors companies, these two very different in relations to size, revenue, and profitability. Conclusion. We conclude that we should accept hypothesis 1, 2, 3, and 4. This means that the value of CSR reporting is highly questionable, at least seen from the ethical perspective. The reason for this twofold. First, the CSR report present must be irrelevant data that are almost impossible to use in an overall evaluation and or comparison with previous years or other companies. As an extension of this, the current practice of CSR reporting is also characterized by cherry-picking data, meaning some companies do not provide near or all the relevant data. Second, the relevant ethical baselines are unclear and lack justification. It is only with regards to absolute constraint category that the baseline is reasonably clear and justified.
whereas the baseline of both the minimizing negative impact and positive contribution categorized are unclear and lack of justification.